Hey everybody, and welcome to another APA style tutorial. In this one, we are going to be using LibreOffice and Open Office to make a 2x2 line graph, 2x2 Factorial line graph. So here we have our data all ready to go. And of course, in the previous videos and all the other APA style tutorials that I've done, this is all of the same data. And as I did with the Excel refreshes earlier this year, you have the ODS files there to allow you to open it up, make changes, see what I did, go through all of it, play with it. It's going to be amazing. Shh. Don't tell your teachers that I included the link in the description down below to this data file. It's not an Excel file. It is an ODS in the Open Document Format space, ODS for spreadsheet. So you can find that in the description down below. Why LibreOffice? Why Open Office? Well, small market share. If you have Linux, you probably use these. And you might be a statistics student, and you might be needing to do stuff in APA style, psychology, sociology, all of these, graduate student, maybe you need to make an APA style graph. How do you do that in this program? That's what this tutorial is all about, and that's what this tutorial series is all about. And again, in this one, we are going to be making a line graph. So in the previous episode, we did this same data set, but we made a column graph or a bar graph, depending on how you want to see it. But in this data, you can see that there might be an interaction, okay? Because this number is higher than this number in math skills, men and women, and this number, 76, is higher than the men value for confidence building. So maybe an interaction there. Easiest way to spot an interaction is to do a line graph, especially if you only have a 2x2 factorial design. It's great. So if you're not familiar with this data because you haven't seen any of my other videos using this data in any of the other spreadsheet software programs, we have a P by E factorial setup, 2x2, where our experimental variable is the kinds of instruction that were given to participants. They were either randomly assigned to the math skills group or the confidence building group. And this was a stereotype threat for the stereotype that women or girls are not good at math, right? So if we ask them what their math skills are they going to freeze up and do poorly on a test of their math skills? And of course, we have the P participant variable is men and women, just this binary, gender binary here for this particular data set. In the same setup, we have our standard error values. The 3.43 and 3.67 are the exact same for our two experimental groups. They just differ on whether they are men or they are women. So you can see men have the same values and women have the same standard error values. And so we're going to make a line graph that not only has our lines on it, but also has error bars on it, which is what is needed for full data visualization purposes in APA style. So let's go ahead and get started on that for this video. We are going to first select our main means here and the labels themselves and make our graph. So we're going to go to Insert Chart, this little character icon here. We're going to click on that, and it's going to bring up our chart wizard. And as you can see, it defaults to the previous video in a column chart. But of course, we don't want that. We actually want to choose line first. And we are going to choose points and lines, I think is what we'll do. We'll do points and lines, yeah. But you can also just do lines only. It gets rid of the points. Either one works. Of course, with two different data series, it is going to choose two different point styles, as you can see here. Squares for math, diamonds for confidence building, right? Another thing that you can do with line graphs is to stack your series on top or by a percentage. These are mutually exclusive lines, so we can't do that. And then line type, you can do straight, you can do smooth, or you can do step and modify those properties. For the purposes of an APA style line graph, straight lines, and that's it. Okay, straight lines, and that's it. Let's take a look at our data range. Our data range is B4 to D6. That's what we've chosen here. Data series in columns, or we can do rows. So we can have men and women as the lines, or we can have men and women as the x-axis here, okay? First row as label, that's this one right here. Those go into the labels for the lines. First column as labels, those go down in the y-axis. These would still be checked, but flipped if we did rows. You can go back and forth. Doesn't matter. And I'm going to show you what happens when we do that. So math skills and confidence building, and then men and women get switched here. We're going to do the same thing that we did in the previous video and had gender down on the x-axis and the experimental variable represented by the lines. So let's move on to data series. It already grabbed the labels from the data range. It already grabbed the labels, so we don't really need to do anything to change this at all, which is awesome. I really do love that. It makes the whole this especially step 3 the easiest for the non-data savvy, data working savvy folks in our lives. Right? You don't need to make any changes to this. Last thing is chart elements. We want to go ahead and handle our titles, or just legends, and our grids here, and then we don't have to worry about them using buttons up here at all. Okay, so we don't need any titles. But we do need an x-axis title, and that's going to be gender. Now, the unfortunate thing about this chart wizard is we can't change font or font size here. We are going to have to go back and change that. Y-axis is going to be statistics, test score, and then I'm going to put in parentheses out of 100 and close those parentheses. So it'll put that information in all of these spots. Display grids. I don't like the y-axis lines. We're going to get rid of those y-axis lines. We're going to uncheck that box, get rid of the y-axis lines. We do still have the chart wall on here. And of course, we're going to try to maneuver that as well. The last thing here is the legends off to the right, making this graph image quite wide. I usually like to put it at the top. This is a personal choice. You can do whatever you'd like to this. It just makes the graph a little bit wider. I'm going to change the sizing on this so we can get all of the information on this. Nothing's covered or anything like that. We can move our dialog boxes out down to the side here. So everything is done in the chart wizard. We do have some things to do for the axes and for the error bars. So we're not quite done. But we are going to finish with the wizard here. So here we are. Now, LibreOffice and Open Office do the exact same thing with their line graphs as Apple Numbers does. And that is they put the points of the axis at the very edge, right? So we've got men all the way separated from women. Like they're taking up the whole chart area. And I'm not sure if that can be changed. It definitely can't be changed in Apple Numbers. So, but we're going to play around with the many options for our display and see if there are changes that can be made to that. So before we do that, because that is going to be an x-axis change, we're gonna see what we can do about that. But we're gonna make some other changes. I'm going in a different order than I did in the previous video with the bar graph, the column graph. I'm gonna make additional. I'm gonna go in a different order. So let's get rid of the wall first. That's the first thing we want to get rid of. So we go to chart wall up here. It's this button here with the pane inside of it. It kind of represents the boundary of where the data is going to be represented, and it brings up the borders. We don't want one. We want to change this to none. So we're gonna click OK, and there it goes. It disappears. So it makes at least the women's side a little more useful slash unimpeded. Men at the 0 mark is a little annoying. So we're going to see what we can do about that. All right. Again, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different order. So we kind of the exact opposite order. So let's go ahead and modify our y-axis title. I'm going to click on this button here. The button tooltip did not come up. It's the cancel format selection button. I can remember that. So this is one way you can go to modify it. You can right click and format title. That's another way you can do it. Or you can double click and it'll bring up the format selection dialog box up. Okay, and so here it is, format dot, that's right, cancel, make this a little bit smaller so we can see what we're doing. There we go. There, so it kind of smushed everything, but that's all right. So go back to format selection, because we need to make some changes to the title itself. The only thing we really need to change in this dialog box is the font. In case you want to look at these and pause, borders, you can add a border around, it'll be about this shape. Of course, default is none. If you do have a border or you want to add some sort of gradient or everything, just fully customizable options here. Transparency makes it transparent, if you have it overlaid on something. Font effects make the font, strike through, underlining, adding outline or shadow or anything like that. And then the alignment of this. We have it at 90 degrees, which is up here, right? Which makes it vertically oriented text, but we could make it 8 degrees and then hit OK, and it'll be slightly slanted from the horizontal. Of course, we don't want to do that. Put it back up to 90. There we go. Let's go to font, and we're going to change this to Arial. Now, if you haven't seen any other videos where I talk about font and font size, Arial is a really good font. It's a sans serif font, so it doesn't have any flourishes at the ends of letters. It is a good font for a few reasons. One, it's a sans serif font, right? We just did that one. Two, it's kerning. The space between the characters is nice and separated. It's very easy to see from a distance. That's one character versus another character. Even two L's or an I and an L next to each other, lowercase, of course. You can easily tell the difference from a distance. And then 3, it is a better font for folks with dyslexia. It's not a dyslexic font. There are fonts that exist out there for the purposes of dyslexia, but it is a decent font for people with dyslexia. So we do that. And then, of course, we increase the font size to 14. So it is not only readable at a distance, say in a poster presentation, in a conference hall, but anywhere, in a manuscript, in a typeset manuscript or an article, a presentation slide deck, all of these kinds of things. 14 is a really good font no matter where you're sitting in that room, right? Especially if you're sitting in the back of a big conference presentation symposium room and you're like, wait, what's on that graph? A lot of people don't put the extra effort needed to make sure everyone can see everything no matter where they are giving a presentation. So changing it to at least 14 will get you to there. You might need to make it bigger depending on how big or how far away you want people to read. There are some conventions online that you can find that help you, but I think 14 is a good middle ground. So we're gonna hit OK. It's gonna make this massive, which is good. That's what we want. We're gonna go to the y-axis and make some changes. Okay, so we choose y-axis from the element list, and we click on Format Selection. Brings up the y-axis. The tab goes to the default on what you last were at in your previous dialog. So we were in font last. So let's go ahead and make that change. Arial. This was defaulted to 10. We're gonna change it to 14. We're not gonna hit OK. Numbers, leave it alone. That's the format of the cells themselves. Just leave it. It's a number. It's general. It's all good. Font effects, again, same thing as just the previous box. We don't really need to change anything like that. Label, this would be changing where the numbers are. Of course, we don't want that. We don't want to change any of these defaults. We want the order to be automatic, right? 0 to 90 or whatever. We do want to change the line, though. The line, as you can see, is this light gray. It's a continuous line, which is good, but we also want it to be black. And we've got black right here. Okay, and we change that. We don't need to change the thickness or transparency. Positioning. Cross other access at category men. We don't want this. So let's see if we can change start, cross other axis at start. Let's see what happens with that. Place labels near axis, that's where they are right now. And we have a major outer tick mark, which I prefer. And then we've got inner if you want to do cross. So check this would be a cross. We'd have one here and then one here, right? Same length, or we could just do inner. And I wouldn't put minor in there. That just makes things a little bit messy. Scale, we're going to have to change because I said out of 100 and the automatic maximum that LibreOffice put in was 90. And it's not going to update that. So we are going to actually have to come over here, uncheck automatic and change this to 100, right? We can also use the buttons here. So we're going to do that. It's going to make this box a little bit wider because this is now going to be 3 digits. And let's see what happens here. Now, it still kept it at start. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Let me go back and see what the other selection was. Let's go back to positioning. Let's see what end looks like. Oh, okay. So start is on the left, end is on the right. Okay, we don't want that. That could have just said left and right. I don't know why. So we do have to put it at start it at category, and we only have men and women. I don't necessarily like that, but we may be stuck. We may be stuck. Okay, let's do that. We'll see if we can make that change on the y-axis side. Okay, so y-axis is done. Let's do x-axis. Let's change the x-axis title. Click on that and hit format options. Bring this up. Title. Again, we don't need to change anything about its box. So borders, area, transparency, font effects, and alignment unnecessary, but we do want to change the font to Arial and 14-point font. There we go. We hit OK. That makes gender all big. All right. The last bit that we want to do before we do error bars and focus on these lines themselves on the x-axis is modify that at least to make the line black. We'll see what we can do about the positioning. So font, since we were there last, let's go ahead and take care of that. Arial 14. Again, numbers we don't need. Font effects we don't need. Label, we might come back to. Label, I think, is just how men and women look. So we might have to come back to that. Positioning is definitely where we want to look. Line, I should probably move this over. Line is continuous. Yeah, we want that, but we want it to be black. Oh, you saw that my recent colors were down there. So there we go. That's going to be black. Now, scale, we don't need to worry about the scale, but let's see what we can do about positioning. We don't. So that's start at value at 0 would just mean it would be this line would be moving up. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have a choice to grab men from this side, which of course makes Excel that much better in keeping information off the axis. We should be able to do that. Let's see if between tick marks helps us out here. Let's try that. Yes, there we go. That's what you do. Between tick marks. Yes, exactly how we want this graph to look. That's what Excel does by default. So if you want your graph to look like Excel, but can't afford Excel, don't want to pay for Excel, you don't want to use Microsoft products, then between tick marks. Oh, let's go back here. See if, in case we missed anything. So on tick marks would put it over here, 1 and 2, but between puts it in the middle. Amazing. Love it. Scale. Okay, sorry. We did everything. Okay, we're good with that. All right. So there we go. The one last piece that we need is to do error bars. So again, much like with the bar graphs, the only way to get that I can see to add error bars is to right click on the series themselves to add the error bars here. Of course, we don't have X error bars. It's just men and women. That wouldn't make any sense. These would be error bars that go horizontal. We do need Y error bars though. So we're going to click on that. And that was for confidence building. So we're working with orange right now. And again, we get these two options, the error bars themselves and the line. Well, we don't need to do anything with line because by default, it's continuous black. Love it. And we get two error bar options here. The indicator always defaults to positive and negative, having the plus and the minus, which is fine. And then as you can see, it always has the cap. There's no option to remove the cap. So that's what we're going to do. Now we have the value choosing proposition here, right? Constant value percentage. Raw data computing would be over here. Raw data computing would be over here, okay? Or we choose the cell range because we already have our information right here for standard error. Of course, that's what we want to do. The best option is same value for both. Saves a few clicks, of course. That's it. That's all it saves, a few clicks. But it's quality of life. I wish Excel had this. We click on this. We don't need to worry about collecting the information for negative because whatever we put in positive, it will automatically apply to negative. So let's go ahead and click on Select Data button. This will bring up a small little box where we can select the data. Now, I realize that I'm doing confidence building first. So we are going to go down this column right here, 3.43, 3.67 in this column. We're not going to go across rows. That would be a no-no. It's this down a column, okay? Because it's confidence building. So we put that in there and we click OK, and there we go. We've got an error bar over here and an error bar over here. And once I click off of this chart, these red lines or these red squares won't be in there. They're just indicating that we're working with this line here. We're going to do that now with blue, which is math skills. We're going to do the same exact procedure. Nothing changes here. Everything is good in line. This is positive and negative. Cell range, check same for both value. I wish you could make that on by default. That would be amazing. And then we're going to go to select the range and we're going to go down math column, math skills column. There we go. Puts the same values in for negative as well. And we're going to hit OK. And then boom, there we go. We have it in there. Awesome. Now, one thing that I did not show you here is the stop measures here. So we can format the data series, right? So we have the data series and what kind of objects that we're going to use. So we've got the square icon is being selected automatically, but of course there is a gallery, there is a symbol, although there we go. All of those different kinds of symbols you can get from the gallery. This all comes in LibreOffice, but of course you can just go through the symbol, and that's how you change this particular thing. You can have them be the same thing. You can have them both be, let's see, where are my circles? You can have them both be circles, just different colors, okay? So we click on that. So again, you go to Format Data Series to change this, and it goes directly to this icon, symbols, takes a second, it looks like. There we go. And there we go. And then both, look at that. Awesome. I wonder, does this sidebar open over here? It does. So if I click on the, yeah, so you get those same properties in this side menu here. Maybe there's a little bit more that we can get if we double click on the chart area. Yeah, okay. This sort of matches how Excel looks, so you don't need to get the dialog boxes up. You can do all of this stuff over here if you want. I did not mention this in any of my other previous videos, but yeah, you can do pretty much the same thing. You can format axis here and it'll bring up, it will do its best to bring it up. Okay, maybe I just have to double click it. That brings it up over there. Interesting. Line, axis, okay. I'm not entirely sure why it's not bringing it up, but that's the properties of the graph, I guess. Then you can also hide that as well. I'm not entirely sure why this didn't click back. There we go. Just gotta click on there. So that is this is an APA style line graph. And look, there's an interaction because we go through, we look at these lines. Are they parallel? No, they're not. That is an interaction. So how do you do this in Open Office? Well, I've got the same stuff here. Let's select it. I'm just gonna go through this really quickly to make the same looking graph. They both save as ODS files. So you only need one, regardless if you are using LibreOffice or Open Office. They're both mutually compatible with each other. So let's go up to chart and make that. That's a little button here. It opens up the chart wizard. Of course, we do not want a bar graph. We want a line graph with points. Again, no stack series, no differences in what kinds of lines they are. We are going to move past this because we want to keep that as default. Same thing with the data series. It's reading what we need it to read appropriately, but we do want to move into the statistics test score out of 100. Oops, got a little I in there. Okay, we don't want the Y label grids. We want the legend at top, aesthetically pleasing, of course. And then we're gonna hit finish and then modify the rest of this. We do know some things. The one thing that I haven't done in any of these graphs is make the legend 14. You can do that if you want to as well. You can format this selection and bring it up and change this font to Arial and 14. I haven't done that in any of these graphs, but yeah, you can do that there. Format selection here, we'll change gender to OpenOffice does have uses Arial as their default, as opposed to LibreOffice, which sets their default as their own font, Liberation Sans. I think that's pretty cool, but to each their own, right? We can go into this, and I'm selecting them a different way, as you can see. I'm not changing it from drop down. I'm selecting them from the graph itself, from the plot itself. Arial, okay. 14 line, no, positioning is what we wanted, right? We wanted, it does not have the same positioning. Oh, place marks. Here we go. We can't change it. You cannot change it in. Interesting. Okay, outside start is where you have to choose it to be at axis and labels. So at labels, I think, is where we get it in. Nope, that did not do what I needed it to do. Format. Let's go back to format selection. Nope, that didn't change it what I needed it to do. So it looks like it's not the same near axis. Yeah, you can't move it away. The tick marks. Can't move it away. And that's too bad. That's too bad. So there's that one difference between Open and LibreOffice in where the positioning of this is and where the tick marks are. That's too bad. So just recognize that's what's going to happen. Okay. Let's go to font here for the y-axis, 14. Hit OK. Now, as you can see, it changed. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let's fill the whole space. Just a pixel right there. There we go. We got it down to, although I do need to modify this to be 100. And again, LibreOffice has the buttons to go up and down. You have to type in this positioning, interval marks. Yeah, nothing changes here. Yeah, well, that's too bad. There we go. Well, I forgot to change the line. Trying to go fast and I forgot to change this to black. I also forgot to change the other one to black. That's gray 10. Black. Hit OK. Go back here. Nope. Chart wall. Well, let's get rid of the chart wall, huh? Click on that. And let's go back to x-axis, format selection, line, black. Hit OK. There we go. So the unfortunate downside here is that we cannot change where. We want them to be outer. Okay. Place labels near axis. Okay, that's fine. But we cannot change where things are. That's on the inside like we can do in LibreOffice and Excel. Those are, I think, the best looking line graphs. You still can see an interaction here. I just don't like them on the y-axis themselves, right? Last thing we need to do is click on these two and add in our y error bars. Let's click on y error bars. And again, line is already default to continuous black. We just need to specify the cell range, same value for both. Okay, I did blue, so let's grab this. Wouldn't have mattered anyways, to be honest with you, because they are the exact same down the columns. Okay, Y. Let's do that. Cell, same value for both. Parameters down this column now, and then we hit OK. So there we go. We have that. One of the other things that I did was format data series to make them the same thing. So instead of a diamond, we are going to go ahead and choose a circle for both. See, even in options, there's nothing to do to move it away from the y-axis. So that's a bit of a bummer, but we'll do what we can. Format data series, and again, line. I wish I would remember where I put stuff. We're going to grab a circle so they look like circles. And of course, you can change the size. It is not based on points. It is based on centimeters. Oh boy, I don't know why, but yeah, it is. And then we hit OK, and then we're golden. There we go. Let's see. Arrangement, bring forward, no. Chart type. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. If somebody knows if there is an option like we just saw in LibreOffice to move them away, right? Because if we go back to this and open, okay, fine. Open up this, right? We've got positioning and we've got position on axis right here. If there's anything like that in Open Office and I'm just not seeing it, then let me know in the comments below. But I think this is what we have to work with. So here we go. That is Open Office. That's the same graph in Open Office as we made in LibreOffice, right? Still see the interaction, and voila. If you have any comments, suggestions, or other feedback or questions, please leave that in the comment section down below. This is our APA 2x2 line graph. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.